Welcome back to my vlog. Walking about the fire station here, which is very cool. And the game store where they've encouraged me to buy Magic the Gathering cards when I went in there. And that was very upsetting because I like Magic the Gathering, but I don't have Magic the Gathering money. I think a lot of you can sympathize with that predicament. In the last vlog, I talked about entertainment as the only rubric available for students in pedagogy and things like that. In this one, I want to talk about more of the suggestion that I left at the end of that last vlog, which was the pedagogy of disconnection. So what is the pedagogy of disconnection? What does that mean? Well, think about it like this. When a student is done with their classes for the day and they go back to their dorm or back to their apartment or back to their house, wherever they go, or maybe they go to work and then they go back, they kind of want to unplug. They want to remove themselves from the everyday. So that's why we see people playing video games. The appeal of the video games is not that they are violent. That's where people get this wrong. Video games aren't appealing because they're violent. Video games are appealing because they are completely disconnected from the life experience and the everyday that the student or that the young person has. Completely separate from school, completely separate from anything that they would be doing normally. They're able to disconnect and get outside of themselves for a little bit. This is a way of sort of recharging or, I don't know, putting things away for a little bit that are a little overwhelming. A lot of my students report they have anxiety. They always say this, and a lot of times it's self-diagnosed. I don't ask them for medical anything. So I think it's kind of a violation of privacy, but it's also a little rude, I think, to be like, oh, where's your doctor's note? I don't think any teacher should be compelled to do that. There are professionals. Well, at the university I work, I think there's professionals who could vet this thing out. Maybe not. But I just don't think it's appropriate. But they say they have anxiety. What does this mean? I think it means that they can't turn off the worry. They have trouble managing the worry and being in their daily life at the same time. So disconnection strategies. Maybe people read fiction, something not for class, but I don't think young people do that anymore. I think it's video games. I think streaming media and fantasy streaming media. Things like Netflix series, things like Star Wars series, the endless amount of series that you can watch on Hulu or Netflix or whatever the streaming service might be, or maybe YouTube, something like that. And I've seen them working in public places on the campus, disconnected like this. They have it streaming in the background. So I think this is how they help manage their anxiety. So what I would say about this is that we should take advantage of this and make it part of our, I don't know how I would put it, maybe make it a trick. Is it a trick? We should make it part of our curriculum, part of our strategy, is disconnection. Disconnection with the students. Now, how would we do that? The way that we can employ disconnection as a strategy is pretty straightforward. Narrative theory and the much maligned and forgotten about lecture. We're not supposed to lecture anymore. That's bad teaching, right? It's bad teaching to lecture, isn't it? Everyone's heard this. Don't lecture. It's disconnected from the students. Well, that might be what we need. We might need a place where they come and watch a professor think through an issue on their own terms, or watch faculty think through an issue on their own terms and ask questions and make it disconnected and make it something that they would not do in their normal life, something they wouldn't do in their everyday. That might get them more interested in the reading and more interested in the writing assignments as something that manages anxiety. It gets them out of that anxious loop. It gets them out of that idea of like, oh, I'm too anxious. I can't manage this. I can't go to class. It's like, no, I want to go to class because it's a disconnect. It's not what I would normally do in my life. It's separate from my worries and my concerns. And it's separate from all the things that I don't know how to manage. I don't know how to turn the volume down without unplugging, without disconnecting. So That's my thinking of what the pedagogy of disconnection would be, is a return to lecture and a return to narrative performance in the classroom, things that I think are way out in terms of pedagogy now, but I think they're worth exploring to create a, maybe world building is something to look at, building the world of your class, world building. It's something to think about in order to get students to positively connect to the material and take the class seriously, not take it as something to push to the side before work, or push to the side so they can get to their self-medicating techniques of video games and streaming movies.